Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back into another edition of Keytime Sports. Please like, comment, share, subscribe to Keytime Sports right here on YouTube, Key City Sports on Instagram, and the Key on millions.co. Here is my profile. Here's my profile. Here is my media feed. And here is my merchandise store. Now, for anyone who wants to purchase merchandise, Keys to the Road merchandise, you will create you an millions.co account, and you will go to my profile, the key, go to my merchandise store, and you can purchase you some Keys to the Road apparel. Here is our brand new logo, part of our rebrand. So, and here is all what we have. Here's the latest apparel that we've made, and here's some apparel from a few months ago that we made. But anytime you get any apparel from now on, you will be seeing this logo. So, let's get to the topic at hand because last night we had a very entertaining game in OKC. And OKC answered the bell last night, America. OKC answered the bell. They came back and they evened the series. They did. They evened the series. And as we can see, where a lot of players on the Spurs, they were inefficient. Julian Champagne, he only had 8 points. Victor Wembanyama, 21 points. Devin Vassell, 22. Stephon Castle, 25. Dylan Harper, 12. He had a very turned over field game last night. When it comes to bench production, Harrison Barnes, 5 points. Keldon Johnson, 10 points. Carter Bryant, 0 points. Luke Cornett, 4 points. And Jordan McLaughlin, 6 points. Now, one thing that I want to say is the storyline after game one about the Spurs was, could they get two? Could they get game two on the Thunder's home floor? Now, I personally said coming into this series that the first two games, both teams would split. Both teams would split, and then we would have a good 5-game series left. And now we have a good 5-game series left. Game 3 is tomorrow night. But there are some things that I like what the Thunder did last night. Chet Holmgren and Jalen Williams, I saw them more times than not last night. I saw them on Victor Wembanyama. And I believe last night was the blueprint for the Thunder winning this series. Because you're not going to stop Wemby from getting his 20 to 25 points. Because he had 21 points last night, as I was reading a few seconds ago. So now it's all about neutralizing Wemby and making the Spurs' other players beat you. Making Devin Vassell beat you. Stephon Castle, Dylan Harper, and Julian Champagne, making them be more ball dominant. Because we all know that Wemby, he is going to get his points. But when you start having like what Castle did, Vassell did in game one, where he had 25, and then you had Vassell with 25, then you had Harper with 24. That is not a winning formula for the Thunder. It isn't. But one thing that I can say is that the Spurs, they going home. They pretty much had a good home good home record this season, and it's been a while since the Thunder won a road game in San Antonio. It's been a while, so you got that, and you got the Thunder going into a hostile environment. And this is the first time in these playoffs where after 2 games, they're dealing with a split because against the Lakers and against the Suns, they were up 2-0 on both of them after 2 games. So they got a little bit of a team that plays the exact brand of basketball that they play, and they can turn it up when they want to, and the Thunder can turn it up when they want to. Now, as for the Thunder last night, you had Isaiah Hartenstein with 10 points, Chet Holmgren 13 points, Shea Gilders Alexander 12 of 24, 50% from the floor. He had 30 points. Lugaz Dort 8 points, and Jalen Williams 4 points. Then you had key contributions from people on the bench like Alex Caruso with 17. You had Cason Wallace, Jared McCain each with 12. You had AJ Mitchell with 10. You also had Isaiah Joe and Aaron Wiggins each have big old goose eggs on the scoreboard when it comes to their stat lines. So, the Thunder, they answered the bell, and they needed to. They needed to answer the bell. So, the last couple of times that the Spurs have won a game in a playoff series and lost the next game, they've always come back and won the following game. Does that happen this time? Maybe, possibly. But we still have to look at the fact that this Spurs team, it's a young team. The Spurs are the 4th youngest team in the NBA. The Thunder, they are the 5th youngest team in the NBA. So we really don't have to. We're really not trying to make this series about playoff experience, because we know that the Spurs, this group of Spurs right here are light years ahead, and we know that the Spurs are going to be back in this situation for years and years to come. We can already see that. But we are in the midst of, I was looking at a few sports journalists yesterday, and quite a few of them were saying that we are in the midst of a dynasty with the Thunder, or we are in the midst of the Spurs creating their own dynasty. And what I say to that is, all the journalists are right, because that's just, if the Thunder win the NBA Finals, they'll be the first back-to-back champion in almost 10 years. They'll be projected to win going into next season, which will possibly be a three-peat. Then you have the Spurs, who as a team just 4 years ago, they were pretty much at the basement of the league. And now you get Wemby, you get Stephon Castle, you get Devin Vassell as your big three. And we already know how the Spurs, how they can just easily win 55 to 60 games on a year in and year out basis. So the Spurs, they not going to miss a beat if they end up losing this series coming into next season. I will have them as one of the top 4 teams in the Western Conference. And the Thunder, well, we already know the Thunder. They already done been on the mountaintop. Let's see what the Thunder can do. Now, once we get to team efficiency, when it comes to the Spurs last night from the three-point line, they were 16 of 40. The Thunder were 13 of 36. So, free throws, Thunder got to the line more and made more. And also when it comes to turnovers, Thunder had 10 turnovers, and the Spurs had 21 turnovers. Devin Vassell and Stephon Castle had 4 turnovers each last night. So that was a contributing factor. Then you had points off of turnovers. The Thunder, they had 10. And fast break points. Not many fast break points in this game, and I'm not expecting a lot of fast break points in this series. Points in the paint. The edge was to the Spurs, 46-42. Largest lead of the game was 13 by the Thunder. Then largest lead was 5 by the Spurs. So this, no matter what the final score says, every shot came down to the last second. It was a last second shot in game 1 until the Spurs went on that late game run to win by 7. And in this game, had a last second shot, and then the Thunder, they went on a 8-0 run in the final 2 minutes. So once we look at the highlights and we get a grasp and a feel, I'm just gonna go right to the fourth quarter because nothing really matters in the first 3 quarters. It's all about the last few minutes of the fourth quarter. But this game didn't go into overtime. Now, as you can see here, Harrison Barnes for 3. That cut the lead down to 2. OKC called a timeout, and then Alex Caruso, he scores. Well, he didn't score, he got fouled. And basically right here, what I was thinking is, I'm like, okay, the Spurs, they are going to make a run, but what can the Thunder do to neutralize this run? And as you all can see, it's like in the glimpse of an eye. OKC can be up by 10 or 12, and then all of a sudden, 30 seconds later, down by 6. And that's the same thing with the Spurs. They can do that. They can be up by 6. OKC comes down, makes 3 shots, and all of a sudden their lead is down to 2. So this was basically good night, Irene. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander comes down and scores 2 of his 30 last night, and a prayer from Stephon Castle did not go in, and that was basically the game for the Spurs and the Thunder. Now, game 3 is tomorrow night. Game 4 is Sunday night. Now, both of these games, since they are the next 2 games, are very critical because whoever wins game 3 obviously is going to take control of the series and be in the driver's seat. But like I said, before this series started, every game was going to be critical, and that's why I picked the Thunder in 7 games. That's why I picked the Thunder in 7 games, because every game is going to come down to a last-second shot. It is, and regardless of what y'all have seen, regardless of what y'all have saw, the final score doesn't indicate how close those shot attempts were when it comes to the Spurs and the Thunder. That's all. But that's all I have to say about the Spurs and the Thunder for game 2. Let's get to game 2 of the Cavaliers and the New York Knicks. New York takes a 1-0 lead going into game 2 against Cleveland. Now, I'm not going to give y'all any previews because it's pretty much the same exact thing that I was reading before the series started. But obviously, can the Cavaliers bounce back from a 22-point lead that they had, and they were projected to win the game? They had a 96% chance of winning game 1, but New York went on that historic run, and New York won, and now New York, they are favored to win tonight's game. I believe that if and I'm going to say this, I believe if New York wins this game tonight, there will be no game 7. Because I have the Knicks winning this series in game 7. But if the Cavaliers come out and I would say lay an egg in the last 8 minutes like they did Tuesday night, this series will be over with in 5 with the New York Knicks going to the NBA Finals. Now, Cavaliers, James Harden got to play better. Also, when it comes to Kenny Atkinson, when you see there's a run going on and your team has a 20-point lead or a double-digit lead, after the New York Knicks make 2 or 3 consecutive shots, you call timeout if you're Kenny Atkinson. You call timeout and regroup, because you don't want what happened in game 2. Well, you don't want what happened in game 1 to happen in game 2. And now all of a sudden you are trying to scramble and fight your way back into this series, because with the Knicks, if they win game 2 tonight, just alone Cleveland would have to protect home court and win game 3 and 4 to stay off elimination. To stay off elimination, that's what they would have to do. So, do I have hope in the Cavaliers as far as winning game 2 tonight? I want to see a competitive series, and everybody wants to see a competitive series. Nobody, regardless of what team you are a fan of, you don't want to see a sweep. You really don't. And on top of that, I think when it comes to teams getting swept in the playoffs, you really had no business being in that situation, because the team that's favored didn't even really have to break a sweat. So for the Cavaliers, the point I'm trying to make is the Cavaliers, game 2 is a must win for the Cavaliers, or else you could pretty much cut your losses. And as far as Cavalier fans saying that they are on their way to the finals, the series is not going to be over if they lose tonight, but it is going to put a significant dent in their NBA Finals appearance hopes if the Cavaliers cannot win game 2 tonight. And as far as for the New York Knicks, OG Anunoby, X Factor. Landry Shamet, X Factor. Jordan Clarkson, X Factor. Karl Anthony Towns, and Jalen Brunson are the driving forces of the New York Knicks. So let's see if the New York Knicks can keep this momentum going from game 1 and winning game 2 tonight. And with that, those are my reactions from the Western Conference Finals, game 2 versus the San Antonio Spurs and the Oklahoma City Thunder, and my preview for the Eastern Conference Finals, game 2 between the Cleveland Cavaliers and the New York Knicks. Please like, comment, share, subscribe to Keytime Sports right here on YouTube, Key City Sports on Instagram, and the KeyOnMillions.co. For anybody who wants to purchase my merchandise, here is our brand new logo, part of our rebrand. For anybody who wants to purchase my merchandise, you can create you an account on Millions.co. Go to my profile, which is the key. Go to my merchandise store, which is right here, and you can purchase you some keys to the road apparel. And also, here is my media feed. Here's my media feed for all of my different sound bites, clips, and different segments from previous shows and from what I've done in the previous couple of weeks. And remember, everybody, one last thing, the key is always on time.